Hey, welcome back. It is Friday, April 29th, 2022, third decade of the 21st century. Um, if you've seen any of my previous videos today, foregoing the preamble on why I created this channel, I went back and rewatched the Zoom footage from last Friday evening of myself and Miss Sheila K. And it was a lot better than I anticipated. It was way more clear than I anticipated. And Miss Sheila, I gotta tell you, clearly it seems from the video we can get along. There's topics we may disagree on, but we recognize each other as decent people trying to do our best. And even though we may disagree and we may say things that we disagree with and disagree with passionately, we clearly seem to get along, at least in video. I hope you get that out of that. I did make some notes, and I apologize. My handwriting is god awful. So, at about the 3 minute 22-second mark, I offer the solution of if it's a topic I'm not interested in, if it's a topic I'm done with, perhaps she hosts on her channel and she hosts the Zoom call, and therefore it's like she's taking ownership. Like, I want to talk about trans. I'm like, okay, well, I don't, so you're hosting. Let's talk about what you want to talk about. We didn't really get, for whatever reason, we didn't really get a resolution on that. We didn't really discuss it any further. At the 5 minute and 5 second mark, Sheila, you admit to being a yeah butter. And then you also, I could be wrong, but I felt like you were hinting at my ignorance. Sometimes I think the way we use it, even though it's grammatically and technically correct, it has a very weighted meaning to include. No matter in spite of our best intentions, using the word ignorance just comes across as demeaning. But technically, you may have been using it 100% correctly, in spite of the emotional impact the word has. Right at around 5 minutes and 50 seconds, you and I were talking about an example with the military and whatnot, and I mentioned my barber, who grew up here, and then I don't know what happened, but as is so often in my life, I never even finished. The point I was trying to make is she grew up here, and as a result of growing up here, yeah, she has an extremely negative opinion of the military, which is funny because the overwhelming majority, if not exclusively her clientele, is Marine Corps and Navy, and she's polite and she's courteous. From what she's expressed to me, deep down, she can't fucking stand us. She just thinks we're all just fucking weird. She's probably not wrong, but I digress. At about the 12-minute mark, as we were talking about service, and this is in the first video, so there's two videos, by the way. It may not be something you understand, Sheila, but to me, yes, the individual branch of service does have a meaning. So I as a veteran, I'm always very intrigued. What branch did you serve in? And yes, I'm also interested in your MOS. And then after that, hey, thank you for being one of us. But yeah, it's just, it matters to us. I don't know if it's something I can explain. It just matters. At about 14 minutes and 55 seconds, I'm given the opportunity to address her videos, at least the first two, and my initial impressions. And by initial impressions, I also meant the comments. At 16 minutes and 30 seconds, the topic of caring and miscommunication and impact is brought up. In spite of our best intentions, I feel like between you and I, Miss Sheila, we're just, I don't know, we're just not connecting on the subject. You're hearing one thing, I'm hearing another thing, and for some reason we're just missing. That's the interpretation I get. Watch the video, and Sheila, you tell me. At about 22 minutes, the connection starts to decline. but the audio seems good. So the video seems bad, but the audio seems to maintain. At about 23 minutes and 20 seconds is when Sheila brings up the example. And from my interpretation, the way that I was receiving it on my end, I felt as though you were pushing very, very hard. Almost to include, you weren't allowing me to even answer. But I mentioned here whether it was the internet connection or not, would not let me speak or finish. So I don't know if the internet connection was so bad where you couldn't hear me speaking, and therefore were under the assumption that I wasn't speaking, and that's why you were speaking. But it gave me the impression as though you were not interested in what I had to hear. You just wanted to win and dominate. And again, that could very well be the internet connection interfering with our ability to communicate. At about the 38-minute mark, try to explain my disposition, especially towards expression. Heavy emphasis on try. And something happened, and from what I saw in the video, I wasn't really allowed to make my point and complete my point. And I don't know if, once again, the internet interfered with our ability to communicate. But from my notes, the impression is that I didn't get to complete my thought process on that. At about the 41-minute mark, I address pushing too hard, especially when we're passionate. I was attempting to exemplify that you're very passionate about the subject, and whether you realize it or not, whether you recognize it or not, you're pushing very hard. You still might not even see that in the video. But anybody else watching, if there's any third, fourth, fifth neutral parties watching, let me know what you think. Let me know if you got the impression of passion, and because of said passion, pushing very hard. So that was the first video. And then in the second video, not sure why it keeps switching back and forth during the video. So as Sheila was talking, I'm not doing anything other than listening, but the Zoom app kept switching back and forth. Normally it does that when she's done talking, it's my turn to talk, and vice versa. But it kept switching back and forth inexplicably, and I don't know why. But non-verbally, it's kind of like a weird piece of non-verbal communication, because it's almost like trying to imply that I've got some really adverse body language. That's how I interpret that. When in all reality, I'm like, okay, go on, keep talking. And then at about 7 minutes and 27 seconds into the second video, makes the comment alluding to a larger audience. The reason I made that comment was because Sheila, you were talking about, I was making colorful comments and whatnot, and that how other people may misinterpret that. The reason I make this comment is because I really do appreciate your confidence in my channel. Truthfully, I don't think that many people are watching my channel, and I don't think there's a lot of people being miscommunicated to and getting the wrong impression. And I don't think because of my channel, I'm creating a heavily adverse community of anti-trans or whatever it was you were alluding to. But then also in that same conversation, because of the assumption of the size of my audience, I took down a note of conflation of others, conflating intent or conflating, communication. And it just happened a moment ago. You'd think I could remember. And then somewhere in the video you start talking about damage control and mea culpa, and we didn't get a chance to communicate whether or not you were directly referencing me. If you thought I was trying to do damage control, but then I responded, because I don't think I've ever tried to do damage control other than, look, I'm not purposely trying to harm anybody. I'm not, and you understood that. So, since you understood that, and it was terrifically communicated that you understood my intent, at the risk of having to go back and narcissistically watch my other videos, I I don't know that I was ever doing damage control, but that's your freedom to interpret. So without further ado, here's our video. Enjoy, and let us know what you think, because some of the follow-on videos I've made since then, Wednesday and today, had a lot to do with this video. And one of the general impressions I got from this video, which now that I watch it again, I don't know why the emotions were so strong, but emotionally what I felt was though she was trying to back me into the corner for one of those I gotcha moments. Having rewatched it, it's still there, but it's not as strong as I remember feeling it. Having rewatched the video, my previous emotions as of like an hour ago were pretty strong, and I rewatched the video. I just watched the Zoom call, and I really can't find the justification for such strong emotions, because it's still there slightly, like she was trying to get me in one of those I gotcha moments, but it's just not as, it doesn't carry the same strength and weight and power that I remembered it from last week. And then same thing, I still get the impression of pushing, but not pushing as hard as I remember from last week. Even Wednesday, and I don't know why, but you know, that's the funny thing is I rewatched the video and I was like, well, you know, I still get the impression, but it's not as forceful as I remember it. But anybody else, you let me know what you think. Because obviously myself and Miss Sheila, we're going to see things differently. We're going to see things that potentially favor us, or we're going to see things that directly reflect how we're feeling, and it's probably not going to be as neutral as possible. So any third parties out there, fourth, fifth, whatever, if you watch the video, let us know what you think, and let us know if you get some of the same impressions, okay? And Miss Sheila, if you comment and somebody else watches it and reads her comments, whatever she comments, let us know if you're getting any of that as well. So without further ado, here you go. I'll probably do a preamble video before this video. How have you been?
Up and down, because I've got post-COVID syndrome, and we're titrating up medications and titrating down medications. I'm trying some natural things to try and change some of my symptoms, and so it's all interesting and fun.
I understand to a point. With our son, everything was, I guess you could say, trial and error, if that makes sense, where because every individual human body is unique and different.
Yeah.
No two people necessarily respond the same. So I remember what it was like for the long yet short 7.5 years that he was with us. The back and forth and the ups and downs and the trial and error. I remember what that was like. So I'm not saying I know exactly what you're going through, but I remember the trial and error process that he went through.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's been you know, I'm to be honest though, I'm kind of used to it, because this has been my life for a really long time. And I like, even before COVID, there's been a lot of trial and error before I got diagnosed with what I actually have. You know, it's like doctors, a lot of medicine is, you know, there's some science to it, but to be honest, you can have all the science in the world. You can have a thing that they've done studies on and they can say, oh, it works in 97% of people, but there's a lot of times that I'm in the 3% that it doesn't work on. So it doesn't fucking matter how much science there is to back things when you have bad genetics that make you fall into weird, you know, and most things don't work in 97% of people. You know, most things are like 60, 70, 80%. They're like, oh, that's good enough. That's good enough to show that it's significant, and we're going to go ahead and do it. So
I noticed you recently made 4 videos, like almost like chapters, like chapter 1, 2, and 3, and 4, technically.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know
And
if I go ahead.
the first two were responses to your video, or your, well, like to our discussions kind of and stuff like that. The third and fourth ones were more like, all right, I don't think Daniel's ever going to talk about this issue because he really doesn't like talking about this issue. So I just want to make videos about this because he's never going to talk about it.
Well, one potential solution I came up with, and I'm curious to get your opinion on, is I intended it to be innocuous as an example. I didn't intend for it to stimulate a tangent. You know, like in the cosmic universe, when things collide, there's no telling which direction the particles are going to go. I had no intention of that. My intention was, hey, here's a recent example that's been taking place in the media and how people are responding. And it's like it's being shoved in your face as though you have to make an opinion. I didn't have any intentions of that example blowing up. So my thought process was, in certain situations like that, if that's where you want to camp out, then maybe on your channel you can host it, and then we can Zoom on your channel, and you'll be the host and you'll host the topic. Because on that particular subject, you're right. It wasn't one that I wanted to camp out on. It was kind of like, okay, example, direction, purpose, intent is like, it was one of those where like, yeah, but for the crowd that's at least participating on your channel, you did not choose an innocuous example. And it's like,
No, I knew that. And I mean, I don't know if it was clear to you that I knew that. I 100% understood what you meant to your echo chamber. I understood that it had no ill intent whatsoever.
I had the unfortunate frustration of feeling like it was a yeah, but. I get
it was a yeah, but it was totally a yeah, but also I was trying to explain sometimes that happens when we don't fully delve into a subject. I mean, I would say, like, when I was younger, there were plenty of topics that I didn't know about, and I'm certain that there are still plenty of topics that I don't know about. And if I just like start jawing away about them, you know what I mean? Like, let me give an example of something that I never jaw away about, but if I did, could definitely trigger a lot of emotion. I don't know much about the experience of being in the military. And I've dated somebody who was in the military and who served overseas, et cetera, et cetera. And we had a lot of instances where it caused some issues, even though we had a lot of things that we agreed upon, and generally most of the time we were okay. He was the person who assaulted me at the end of our relationship, which shocked me kind of. But then I also had these sort of schemas in my head where I was like, well, that statistically, I knew that abuse does happen a little bit more in certain groups of people, you know, and stuff like that. But I know it doesn't reflect everybody in the population. But there were things that I could have said, you know, about him being in the military at times that could have been like more stereotyping. Does that make sense?
No,
more stereotyping and more insensitive to what his particular experience was. And I always tried to be sensitive about it. But there were times where I was really frustrated with the relationship.
I get it 100%, because even the girl that cuts my hair, she grew up here. She's not military. Somebody in her family may have been a long time ago, but you've spent some time on college campuses. She'd be the equivalent of a townie.
Mhm.
So to make a semi-decent comparison, townies versus college kids. You can probably directly relate that to townies versus military.
Yep.
And once the military's been there long enough, they've had an opportunity to ruin the relationship with the town and the townies because of the actions of a few. And people tend to forget, whether it's college kids or military kids, we're all just individuals. Some of us are good, some of us are bad. And I can
Right.
tell you from 20 years of experience, I've seen a lot of stereotypical treatment. I've seen a lot of stereotypical suggestions, but at the same time, I got to a point in my career where I strictly dealt with the 10 percenters, the 10 percenters that probably should have never graduated boot camp and put on a uniform.
Hmm.
Um, and believe it or not, that was the hardest thing for me when I first retired, and or even before I retired, when people thanked me for my service when I was away from the base, like way away from the base. Oh, thank you for your service. And my wife always used to give me a hard time about it because I'd be like, "Oh, if these people only knew the type of shit birds I used to deal with on a
Right.
daily basis." The 10
Yeah.
percenters took up 90% of our time. And the good kids would always be like, why are we always doing this nonsensical bullshit? And I was like, you really want to know why? And I'd go to my little drawer and I'd bring out all these publications that had all this cool stuff. And I was like, this isn't high speed, low drag stuff. This isn't secret squirrel stuff. This is stuff we can do. Why don't we? Because I'm too busy dealing with your fellow fucking fucktards in the first sergeant's office because somebody couldn't watch their back. Somebody let them go off on their own and do something stupid and decided not to look. And I got to go deal with this bullshit. So
Uh-huh.
since you guys can't be
Well,
trusted,
but we can relate a lot, I think, in that way, because I had the same experience with college students, and going for 4 different degrees at the same school, and like getting up higher and higher, and then like teaching and being in different types of
but
leadership roles. And I'll say it was definitely more than 10% that were, if you want to use the term shitbirds, sure, why not?
yeah.
But there were a lot of people who exhibited really shitty, asinine behavior that ruined it for everybody else. There are plenty of very decent people going to college on this campus, but there are plenty of entitled pieces of shit who just walked around acting like total tools. And in fact, I would always go hang out with the townies because they were much more fun to hang out with. And they were, like you would always see me out with the townies because I didn't want anything to do
Yeah.
with the areas of town where the college students were hanging out. Those places were fucking nightmares.
I'm sure, yeah, you could probably touch on a nerve if you spoke emotionally. But I couldn't fault you for it, because the one thing I did learn in my time is I learned to judge individual service members. The other thing too is, and I don't know if I can make a good comparison for you, but not everybody does the exact same thing in the military. And
Of course.
not everybody's and the branches of service are different, and they have some different cultures. The jobs are different. It's not everybody's job to locate, close with, and destroy the enemy by fire and maneuver, and to repel the enemy's assault by fire and close combat.
Yeah, and that wasn't his job either. He was a medic.
He was an army medic?
I don't think it was. I don't know what he would have been considered. He was in the National Guard.
So medic.
And he got pulled in during the.
Yeah.
So whatever. I don't think it matters what branch he was. It would have meant that his job would have been quite different, caring for people whose limbs were blown off. And
for me, it does, because we have Navy corpsmen, and the corpsmen that work with the Marines and are embedded with the Marines go to school to earn the title of Doc. So,
okay. Well, I'm just saying, like, in terms of when you were distinguishing, not everybody's job is to go out, seek out, destroy. His obviously wasn't. And I knew that from the beginning, because he was a fire chief when I met him. And So, I mean, I knew the whole time that that was his job. It doesn't mean you don't see shit that's traumatizing. You still see shit that's traumatizing in all of those jobs. But what he did have that was a thing that would, you know, get between us in the relationship was the fraternal order types of stuff. Like the whole, oh, hey, my buddy's in town from my unit. So I know it's your birthday, but I'm fucking off for, you know, even though I just saw him like 2 months ago or whatever, you know, it was that kind of stuff where it was like the guys from my unit always come above no matter what's going on, kind of a thing.
Yeah. And that's what I love about this level of communication, is because we can have that feedback where when we do our own personal videos, there's a pro and con there. It's monodirectional, which is bad. The only pro is we don't step on each other, and, you know, we don't have to wait, if that's a pro at all. But there's no give and take. And like right now, if there's a miscommunication, we have an opportunity to attempt to fix it.
Well, that part's true, but one thing to realize is not all of my videos are directed at you personally. Like, a lot of my videos are just like, hey, I've gotten comments from somebody else, or I've been thinking about this topic for a while, and it's just me expressing all of the different thoughts I've had, and it gives me a chance to do that. And so it's not, I don't necessarily think of in all of my videos like, oh geez, I'm really like thinking like I need to get back at Daniel for something. Like, I'm not thinking about you when I'm seeing these videos. I'm thinking about a topic.
The first two videos, I couldn't help but get the tone of, I'm trying to think of the right way to put it so it's not heavy, but too like what's the right words in the middle? And I apologize for my word retrieval, but see, I feel like attack is it's too visceral, it's too emotional, because it wasn't that. But I don't know what the lighter version is, but emotionally,
well,
that's what
I mean, you're right that you have made your own videos and you had paraphrased me in those videos, and I was like, I need to set the record straight. And so I did specifically quote you and say, I'm responding to your videos. So those two were responses, direct responses to your videos, those two in particular. And I said, I'm responding to, I mean, those definitely were those two. But the ones after that were more just like, okay, and then these are thoughts that I'm having that I don't think, like, unless I just do these videos on my own, that I'll be able to express. I'll get the chance to express these thoughts in full at any point in time.
So, and feel free to level with me. I've taken the necessary time to process. Were you in any way, shape, or form, were you attempting to be antagonizing or inflammatory or biting, or even if those words are too heavy, in the same vein, was any of that kind of what you were feeling at the time?
No, it was just more of like, I want to make sure that I am clear about what I actually had said. Like, because you and I had a phone conversation, and I was like, oh, I didn't say you have to care about everything. You do not fucking have to care about anything if you don't want to. And so I just wanted to make sure that I was really clear on like what I had actually said, what I had meant, if anything I said was unclear, to make sure that I was more clear, and that it was just like, this is what I said, this is what I meant. And on the whole thing about communication and that kind of stuff.
I'm left wondering if maybe, just maybe, we find ourselves at an impasse, because you know how we all have the opportunity to receive, process, interpret information individually at the individual level. That's what makes us unique. For whatever reason, I could, whatever it is, I couldn't get past the fact that, yes, I heard you. Yes, I understood you, as in you were acknowledging, you understood the point I was trying to make, with the caveat of, however, and you weren't trying to say that you have to care, but I'm having the hardest time finding the words for this, but it was like, however, you need to be mindful that you're insulting. And maybe I'm paraphrasing that incorrectly, but it was kind of like, you say you understand, but you're directly accusing me of being insulting, or indirectly accusing me of being insulting because I'm not caring. And I was like, I could just be a big dumb idiot as well.
No, I don't think any of those are quite what I was saying. Like those aren't quite on point. I think what I was trying to get across was, like, for one, like the first point I was trying to get across about communication is that very often in communication, people go off on tangents, and that's natural. Like, it's very, like, it doesn't mean people didn't get the point. That was my first video, was about that. I think that both Stace and I can understand what you're saying, but then if we hear something that goes boing and resonates with us, right? Like, that's how conversation often works in people. And so even if we're responding to a video, right, that it's still similar to when people are having a conversation that we're like, oh, that thing you just said, boing, I'm responding to that thing you just said that resonated in my brain. And it's not that I couldn't process or understand the rest of it. I did understand it. However, this is the thing that I am responding to, because it's the thing that lit up my brain.
Right. So
all my son, you know what I mean? It's the thing I'm interested in responding to. So that was what my first video was saying. My second video was saying that I understood the point and that you were trying to make, that when things are getting inflammatory on either side, right? It doesn't matter if you're right, left, center, whatever. If they're getting inflammatory, it is possible to take the stance that I don't give a fuck about it. And I don't want to, and I don't want to die on some hill of saying, like, I want to fight against these people because whatever news I'm listening to, Fox, MSNBC, CNN, Newsmax.
Does it really matter anymore?
Whatever, it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, whatever it is, like, just because all these pundits are saying shit about it, it doesn't mean that I have to care about it. And this is where the however comes in. The however is that when these things have bombarded us, regardless of whether we want to care about them or not, yet we've decided we don't care and we don't want to be educated about them, it can be very easy to accidentally just slip out things, whether it's our intent or not, that are inflammatory. And it doesn't matter what our original intent was. Like, it just can happen. You know, for me, you're kind of frozen. Am I frozen? I just want to make sure that our feed is okay. All right.
I don't know if it's you or me.
Second there for me.
I don't know if it's you or me. We've had some issues with internet here because in our neighborhood, all of our lines are above ground. They're not underground.
Okay.
So
I got you back now.
Okay.
All right.
I was able to hear everything you said.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I heard everything you said.
Oh, okay.
Your video froze, but your audio was good. So
just let me finish
misunderstood at the same time. At least that's how I feel. I feel as though you understood, and yet whether you were adding more or misunderstanding, or maybe we're at an impasse because I was saying the media is trying to force us to take a side and have an opinion and dig in and make camp. And I'm like, we're not all affected by these issues. Some of these issues are near and dear to some of us and not to others. So why are you invoking the others to get involved when
Okay,
that
let
makes sense to
me
you?
let me give an example. Let me give an example that might resonate with you better. Okay, so that you could understand it. Can you hear me? Because you're frozen again.
Yeah, I hear
Should
you.
we try and reconnect?
I hear you.
Should okay. All right. Let me give you an example that might resonate with you a little bit better. In terms of like just something that you have more experience with. Now, I want to make sure that there's a caveat that this is not what I believe, but I just want to give it as an example. We're
Like
going
when
to
we argued about
pretend
Joss.
that this is no. We're just going to pretend that this
Okay.
is something that I believe. Okay, for a second. We're going to pretend that I'm a person who's really like out there and that this is what I believe. Okay. I believe like anyone who joined the military, it doesn't matter what their reason is. They're all murderers, wife beaters, fucking, dickheads or whatever. But hey, I decided that it's not a hill I'm going to die on. I'm not going to care about that issue or anything like that. But hey, whatever, like they're all super aggressive, fucking douchey males or whatever. But hey, I don't care about it.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay.
But I'm not going to die on the hill. I'm just saying that they're all big fucking assholes who beat their wives and beat their kids. And,
Okay.
they're dangerous, probably. But, I'm not, I've just decided I'm not going to let the media influence me anymore.
Okay. I think we're on the same point. And then, like I had mentioned, equal and opposite, if a gun was to your head and you had to have an opinion.
You're cut out.
I'm sorry. So if a gun was to your head, that would be your opinion.
No, it's not at all, in fact.
But in this scenario, in this situation.
No, it's not even close to my real opinion. But I'm just saying, like, would that be a little bit offensive to you?
I don't know if the internet's cutting out because I thought I articulated that quite well. You're choosing not to get on this hill. Conversely, in this scenario, if I held a gun to your head and it was give me your opinion or die, then your opinion would
have
been.
If I was pretending to be this person, if I was pretending to be this person, would you find that offensive is what I'm asking.
Yes and no. I'm like
a little, even a little.
Well, I think I know what you're going for here. So, and maybe it's
like,
just
would you find it to be like a little bit like, hey, we're misunderstanding people in the military?
Don't take this the wrong way, but I may consider the source. I'd be like, okay, that's your opinion. You do you. Because then I would either ask out loud.
But I still want you to answer the question. Would you find it as though we're misunderstanding people in the military?
A year or more ago, yes. Recently,
wait. Let me back up. Let's say they've built it, and they've built their, say that pretty soon 80% of the population believes this, right? Because it's saturated and 80% of the population believes this. And now we're going to cut VA funding and support and mental health funding. And we're going to cut everything because you know what? They're all jackasses. Fuck them. They're all wife beaters. You know what? Let's just start targeting them and throwing them in prison.
You change the parameters.
No. I'm adding to it. I'm adding to like what the natural thing is because you know what? Let's all get on board of attacking the military. Let's cut all the funding. Let's cut everything out. Let's not support them anymore. Let's all turn against them. They're baby killers, for fuck's sake.
I've been through that. I've legitimately been through that in Raleigh when I lived in the Raleigh area and I went on job searches.
Where 80% of the people where 80% of the people in the population turned on you
100%.
in the United States.
No, at least in the Raleigh area. That's why
The whole government
That's one of the biggest reasons
the
we moved back.
military spending is the biggest part of our budget.
That
military spending is the biggest part of our budget.
I'm not in the military anymore. I'm not. I'm now a civilian. And because
I'm just
of that,
saying it's the biggest part of our budget.
I know exactly what you're trying to do. And because of that reason, I relocated back to an area that is more friendly to my kind, where I am treated more normal, where I'm more accepted, where I don't have to go on a job interview and be accused of being a baby killer or a wife beater or a murdering sociopath.
This connection is really bad for this recording. Yours is showing up as almost dead.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, you're like totally cutting out on me.
Because I hear you.
I think we should disconnect maybe and redo the call.
Hang on, let me see if I could pause it for a second. Give me 1 second. 30. Okay. I know exactly.
All right. Well, anyway,
I know exactly what you're trying to get at. I know exactly what you're trying to get at because you're trying to get me to hyper focus on something near and dear to my heart because you're hyper focused on the example I brought up. And
right. And so the bottom line is that though I'm trying to come across though as someone who's ignorant of the topic as well.
But you're attempting to say that by me trying to do the right thing and trying to do the positive thing by stepping back and not getting involved, that I'm inadvertently participating in the anti, the detrimental, the inflammatory, the negative.
Well, I'm saying that some of the things you said were inflammatory and negative, and I don't think you meant them to be inflammatory and negative, and you didn't realize that they were inflammatory and negative, and it's because it's a topic that you're not that involved in or that close to. I don't think you necessarily have people who are that close to you who have come out as trans. You may have people who are close to you who are trans, but if they are, they haven't come out to you as such.
Well, let me ask you this. Are there people in your life that you may or may not be friendly with, you may or may not be cordial with? Let's just say you're humane to them. But let's just, I don't know, let's something like religion. You know, because some people are like really, really involved in their religion, like identity religion, kind of like identity politics. Are you at least humane to them?
Sure.
Okay. I have no problem being humane.
I'm really close friends with people who are from many religions.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have no problem being humane. I have a problem if you attempt to explain to me why I need to be of your faith or why your faith is the end all be all, or if you start talking about faith in general. I'm admittedly not pro-trans.
I don't really have a problem. I don't really have a problem with people talking about their faith to me if they're not proselytizing at me.
Yes. I'm not a religious person. It's just not my thing. The trans thing is just not me.
It's not mine either.
The pronoun thing, it's not for me. I have no problem being humane. And did I tell you about the Thanksgiving dinner thing?
Yes.
Okay. I have no problem being humane. When you try to convince me of certain things like binary, gender constructs, made up things, everything's made up. We had to invent the words in order to communicate.
Correct.
So that's not my thing. And
correct.
Unfortunately, whether I intend to or not, I don't have the malicious intent of being purposefully insulting or inflammatory, but at the same time, I'm not going to be ashamed of my thoughts, opinions, or feelings. It just is what it is. Like, I wouldn't deny you the same thing. If I may switch for a moment here, and I hope you're okay with
Well,
that.
you
You are married to this thing. You are married deeply. And I love the conviction.
I am.
I love and hate your
My
conviction.
cousin is trans.
I know.
My cousin is trans. So I care about them. I care very, very much. And I just feel like I'm remiss if I just say, okay, so I care about it in as much as I feel like if I just say, yeah, just deny their existence or their validity as a human being, that's fine. And I just am like, okay, like, yeah, you do you, but then don't expect me to say, cool. I'm not going to say cool. I'm going to say, expect people to say, not cool, man.
Well, can you at least see where I'm coming from, where the way you're portraying yourself is you're trying really hard to go, I gotcha. And it's like, that's not what this is about. I don't mind having disagreements. I don't mind us seeing differently. In fact, I love it. I know Stace and I disagree on probably quite a bit. I love having her on my channel. I love having that lack of an echo chamber, because if nothing else, I have every intention of being humane and polite, even if I disagree. And that was the one thing I was trying to drive home too, is why are we treating each other so inhumanely? Why are we treating each other so poorly? Why are we letting the media outlets tell us what to think and feel? It's like, I don't have to agree. But at the same time, I don't have to be a part of the group of people that are making a big deal out of it. I don't have to actively participate in that.
What do you consider to be humane on an individual level, though?
Being polite, being cordial, recognizing you as a person, as a human being. And as long as you can receive and accept that, cool. If you try to force things on me that I disagree with, I will do my absolute best to be polite until you continue to push me into a corner when I can no longer be polite. And I think there are some people, and I don't know, I don't want to use words that are heavy because some people are overly attached to the weight of certain words, but whether certain people love to live in the victim status, or certain people love to play the martyr, or certain people love to come after people like me. I'm a standard issue heterosexual Caucasian male, or whatever the new fancy fandangled social trending terms are. I'm not personally interested. I'm not personally attached nor care. I'm really more interested in treating people like people and, kind of live and let live. I don't like things being forced upon anybody, both ways. Just
sure,
like
but if you're talking on
accept certain things.
Okay, but if you're talking on the individual level, okay, at which we are.
Okay.
So if I'm saying my cousin is trans and is using hormone replacement and goes by they, them, and honestly is the happiest they've ever been their whole life.
Is your cousin a grown adult?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
And if Stace, I'm 45 years old. I mean, all my cousins are close to my age. So if Stace says I'm two-spirited, and explains that kind of stuff and everything, what do you consider humane treatment if you say you don't agree with that?
I'm okay with all of that. There's certain, like, how do I explain this? Stace, it doesn't seem to have a problem with me addressing her as feminine. As far as I understand, she doesn't have a problem with me addressing her in the feminine sense. As far as I know, she's communicated that to me.
Sure.
So that's cool.
Sure.
Now, I don't know if your cousin is trans as in male to female or female to male. I don't know. But if your cousin has also
Does
done,
it matter?
yes, to this extent. And let me explain. If your cousin has done enough of the legwork, like that dinner party, remember that dinner party, okay, where I had no idea. All right, enough was done to present themselves. Okay. If I was to meet your cousin for the first time,
That person was a lesbian and it had nothing to do with gender identity.
if I was to meet your cousin for the first time and your cousin presented themselves as how they feel and looked and presented themselves exactly that way, I'd probably address them that way, just to be kind, courteous, and humane.
Okay.
However, where I might have some issues just as an individual person, and I think I'm totally allowed and totally entitled, is hypothetically, if your cousin is bigger than me, more muscular, ripped, more body hair, more facial hair, but lipstick and nail polish, it'll be extremely difficult for me to be ma'am, miss, she. Maybe that's a bit extreme.
There are plenty of female power lifters and WNBA players that are probably bigger than you.
That's fine. So let me ask you this. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, all right, so that we can try to round this thing out, let's just say we disagree. Are you a bad person?
Sure.
No, seriously, you think you're a bad person for disagreeing?
Am I a bad?
Yeah.
I don't think that it's about that. I guess I'm just sort of making the point of that if you keep saying these are just men wearing dresses or people just trying to win at sports, and you keep making those comments, and that's not who these people are.
Well, I think you're actually making my point for me. And I don't.
Are people like my cousin?
I think you're starting to make my point for me, in my own opinion. You are very attached to this issue.
You cut out again.
I'm sorry.
So I have no idea what you said for the last 20 seconds.
Can you hear me now? Are we good now?
No, I don't know. Yes, I can hear you.
I feel honestly like you're making my point for me, and allow me the opportunity to explain. You are in no way, shape, or form inclined to agree. You don't have to buy into this at all. My interpretation is you're extremely attached, in every sense of the word extreme. You're extremely attached to this, which is your right as a person, your right as an individual. I'm not here to deny that. But I honestly, as an individual, also feel you are shoving and shoving and shoving. And I mean that every sense, the weight, the full value of the word shove. You are pushing very, very hard. And I think that's one of the things we do.
Okay.
We don't realize we get in our own way. And I know for a fact I have probably done the exact same thing. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm not guilty of it. I'm trying really hard to watch myself. And that's kind of where I was trying to go with my question was, are you a bad person? Where do we go from here? I think it's beyond obvious to me, the subject we disagree on. I'm like, okay, we disagree. Where do we go? But you're like, I'm not done. I've only begun to fight. And I'm like, whoa. Now it sounds like the Inquisition. That's how I'm receiving it.
I feel like, okay, and so this is where, like, I feel like the larger point has been missed. You know, like when you make your things, you're like, oh, I feel like the larger point has been missed, right? And the larger point being, it's fine if you never hear any of it and stick with what your belief is of what this is, right? And you ignore it forever and ever. But then expect people to notice it.
That's fine.
That's all.
My channel is my name. I don't even have a pseudonym or a nom de plume. It's my name. I'm probably very easily doxable. I'm very open, and I'm beyond thrilled that someone like you and
Not
Stace.
that easy. Like many dozens of people have her name.
Yeah, well, I'm thrilled that someone like you and Stace have taken the time to, even if you disagree, to get involved, if for no other reason than, God willing, if it's doing anything good for you, if it's doing anything good for Stace. You know, it's great for me because I don't have that echo chamber. When I first started my channel, the people that still continue to watch it but don't comment as much anymore were my friends, and it was like a cheering squad. And I'm like, hey, thanks, I really appreciate it, guys, but you're not progressing the conversation. You're just like, yeah, you know, you go and F those people. And it was an echo chamber. And I was like, no. And I was curious, in your opinion, did you feel the same thing on your channel when you came back?
It's cutting out again.
Oh God, that was a great monologue. Did you hear any of it?
I didn't hear any of it. I guess I'll have to listen to the YouTube video and find out what you said.
I wonder if Zoom even records me if we're cutting out. No, I was just saying that when I first started.
I have no idea.
All I was saying is when I first started my channel, most of it was my friends jumping on it and agreeing with me, creating an echo chamber. And I was like, I appreciate the support, guys, but that's not all.
I got that picture, but I don't know what you went.
Oh, I asked you if you felt the same thing when you came back on and put your 4 videos out there. Or if like that's exactly what you needed. Like, yes, I needed that jolt. I needed you to echo chamber me and make me feel better.
I didn't only get echo chamber. Like I got a few questions that were actually hard questions for me to think about.
Did you get communications?
And like adding some things and I don't know. I have some nerdy friends.
I thought I read all the comments. Did you get additional communications outside?
And I got one kind of interesting. I got one response that I don't even understand what it is, and I'm trying to figure out what the person said. But okay. Yeah, okay.
Oh, because Krishna has been on my channel, and I don't know if Krishna is a friend of yours or a subscriber.
Yeah, it's actually Chris. Old friend. I mean, 2 of the people were like on my channel 10 years ago when I used to do other videos. It was back when YouTube still allowed response videos. I don't know if you were on YouTube back then, but you could like tag a response video onto somebody else's video. And I did a lot of those, and those all sort of got, like they became non-viewable because they were tagged onto somebody else's video. And so you couldn't watch them anymore because you can't do response videos anymore.
Am I saying it right? Erland?
You still there?
Yeah. Am I saying it right?
A picture this time, at least.
Can't tell what the colors mean.
Yeah, Earl. Yeah.
A friend of yours?
Erland, I think it's like a Norwegian name. Erland, yeah. Yep.
Clearly doesn't seem to like
Norwegian.
me much. Wow, this is really bad.
Yeah, it's cutting out really a lot.
God. So
this is the first time that this laggy cutting thing has happened.
Yeah, Erland doesn't seem to like me.
Wow, maybe you should try sending me another.
Wow, this is bad.
You should try, yeah. That's a really close friend who's trans.
Because there was one thing I really, really wanted to accomplish, and I don't know if we're ever going to get to it with the recent communication or the connectivity. I wonder if it changes with if we take the video out. Is your side good?
Let's do a new link.
All right. You want me to end this one and start a new one? Yes. Okay. Hopefully this will stabilize for at least 10 to 15 minutes.
It lagged for about 60 to 70% of
all right,
that conversation. So it was pretty
bad.
bad.
We were starting to spiral, and what I really wanted to get to was something I touched on in my last YouTube video, which was, where do we go? How do we proceed moving forward? So we've clearly been talking about the issue of trans. I'm not married to it. I don't have a dog in the fight. It's not something I wish to spend a lot of time on. I think you've demonstrated that you are very interested and you want to spend some time on it. I expressed to you that I felt like any normal person who's really excited about a topic, and I'm sure I've been absolutely guilty of it, you've been pushing really hard. And I think what happens is sometimes when people get pushed too hard, then they find a reason to resist. Then they find a reason to get involved. Not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is we disagree on a topic, or we're not completely seeing eye to eye on a topic. So looking at the way things are in society from my perspective, I feel as like there are forces that are trying to divide us, left and right, blue and red, so on and so forth. You know, grab your rifle, pitch your tent, join a team. I think we're better than that. It's a good way to freeze. You were in a great position when you froze, by the way.
What? It was a great position when I froze. Yeah, it's not a good connection still. But what can you do?
It's on my side. Were you able to hear anything?
I heard most of it. And I don't know. I mean, I think I addressed it kind of in my last video, is like, you can keep talking if you feel up for it, you know, kind of a thing, in terms of depending on what the topic is and those kinds of things. And for some people, it may be healthy to take breaks at times from the topics if they're not feeling okay about it. I think that emotion has a place in topics, you know, and I would think that that is something that it seems like you sometimes disagree with, that emotion is bad. I think healthy emotion is good. And I think that's something that we undervalue in our society, is emotional competence. You know, like we spend all of this time talking about intellect and being rational and all of those kinds of things, but we really undervalue emotional competence. And emotion is a huge part of what makes us human and what makes us alive. And it's huge. And having and being able to express emotion truthfully, honestly, and confidently is part of what makes us healthy and what makes us be able to be really honest about a lot of topics. And it also, like a long time ago when we were talking about bias, it's part of what helps us be able to recognize bias and to be able to be really honest about when we're having bias, when something's giving us a visceral reaction, when something's sickening us, when something scares us, makes us angry, makes us happy, but anything, whatever the feeling is. I think that emotion plays an important role, and it's about recognizing what emotions we're feeling.
I hear you. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if we pretend for a moment that you and I, let's say we represent a portion of society. I don't mean as an individual, but like, let's say as a group. I know from previous conversations, whether they've been recorded or not, there's certain things you and I will disagree on. And I'm not trying to oversimplify it. I mean, I do agree that on certain topics, there may need to be a greater emotional stance. Maybe it does require a bit of stick-to-itiveness, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, do we need to be so divisive? Do we need to be so finger-waggering and, you're bad. No, you're bad. No, you're evil. No, you're evil. And, is everything we're hearing exactly what we're hearing? Like, some of the people that entertain me, they will say certain things that are, I don't want to say inflammatory, but they say things in a suggestive manner that may make a micro topic seem macro, or may inflate things, if that makes sense. Almost as if to inflate
That
my emotions.
sounds inflammatory to me.
What's that? What's that?
I said that sounds inflammatory to me. That sounds a bit like a very good word to use to describe that phenomenon.
Right. Well, and I don't know if there's an agenda or a purpose, but for argument's sake, let's say that the agenda is you must pick a side, right or left. It's blue or red. There's no purple. There's no inching towards center. And I'm making the argument that it's not that divisive, that we can sometimes agree on things, we can sometimes disagree on things. And I think what's happening in our society is some people think or feel as though they're so emotionally tied that they have to adversely affect others. Whether I agree or disagree, like let's say the trans issue, since it's the highlighted subject, I have no desire to affect your cousin, at least adversely affect your cousin. And I have zero intentions to inadvertently affect your cousin. I'm all about letting your cousin be who they are. And the way that I was attempting to express that,
and you want to know what is, I genuinely believe you. That I genuinely believe, and I have never thought that you had malicious intentions. And I was never trying to make that point, that I thought that you had malicious intent toward my cousin, toward Stace, toward anyone who is trans. I never thought that. It was always about this like unintentional stuff that comes out that then people misinterpret what you're trying to say because you said it. That was my whole point. Does that make sense now?
No, based on the comments that were on your channel, it makes more sense. Because Erland clearly doesn't like me and seems to think that when we're done, I'm going to don my white robe and hood, grab some rope, and go lynching.
Well, maybe not that, but maybe thinks that you want to eradicate all trans people from the population.
See, I no, that's not the truth. It's just not something
But I know that.
Yeah. It's just not something I'm
I know
that,
but that doesn't mean that's what somebody who cares about their very, you know what I mean? Like I could get that. I could understand that from all of the hours that we spent talking. And that was the point I was trying to make.
Well, have you seen that meme? I'm gonna butcher this, but I'm gonna try to paraphrase it. Man, I like oranges. And then somebody's like, oh, what the hell's wrong with bananas? So you basically hate bananas. Oh my God, I just can't even right now. And it's like, I'm not saying that was you.
I mean, I get that, but I think that it's not a great analogy to sort of what came out of that one video. Just that one video, you know. Well, actually, no, there were a couple of them. And they just kind of compiled on one another. It was like, oh, I'm going to do damage control. You know what it reminds me of? This is what it reminds me of. Is when somebody does a mea culpa right? Because they get caught for doing something bad and they come out and do a mea culpa and then they fuck it up 100 times more. Like, have you seen The Good Place?
Is that a TV
I'm
show?
gonna wait till you unfreeze.
Is that a TV show?
Yeah, The Good Place. Yeah,
No.
Michael Schur, who did Brooklyn 99 or Brooklyn 99, and
No.
yeah. Anyway, if you saw that, this would be easier. But I don't know. Just you've probably seen it a million times. Someone comes out, does an apology, and their apology is a fucking nightmare, and they accidentally add a like shit storm, and the apology is worse than what they did in the first place. You know, Roseanne. Roseanne is a good example. Roseanne like makes horrible remarks and then tries to blame it on being on Ambien, and then Ambien comes out and is like, Ambien side effects are not racism, you know, like shit like that. And like pretty soon people are just like, fucking Roseanne, come on now.
Well,
But you know what I mean?
I don't know that I was trying to backtrack on anything, because what I noticed was I was like, why am I commenting? Why am I getting involved? I'm not pro-trans, but I am not affected by this. I don't
Right.
I'm not affected by this. Why am I getting involved? Why? I mean, I'm not pro-trans, but I'm not affected.
I knew that was your point. I knew your point was that you weren't affected. And then you just added a few colorful comments onto it. And it was the colorful comments.
Well, depending on what you mean by the colorful comments. On the wall, right down on the wall. You can't miss it. Is that alive? I don't know. Okay.
Do you have
Sorry,
some kind of alien from the
That's
south?
probably a beetle. It's North Carolina. You can't get rid of.
I love moving from Florida.
This connection is so bad. This thing is taking so long because the connection is so bad. I hope this is all being recorded. Oh my God.
It's really not good. I'm going to go back and I'm going to be like, wow, he said so much.
Whoa.
That was even more.
Jesus, that was
There we
awkward.
go.
What the
Yeah.
hell? Yes, I'm recording. See it right there?
Totally lost it for a minute there. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hello? Maybe this is the opposite, where yellow means even worse than red.
All right. I think we just need to call it. I think this is an exercise in failure.
Yeah, it is. We could try earlier tomorrow, maybe.
I'll be
Yeah,
out of town
might be
early
better.
tomorrow.
If you're free.
No, I have to go judge a beer contest tomorrow, but tomorrow evening I might be available.
Oh, okay. Would it maybe Sunday?
Sunday's my wedding anniversary.
Oh, well, that's important.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And all I really wanted to do,
try and see.
all I really
and
wanted to do was try
hopefully
to
it'll
make
be
the
better
point,
tomorrow.
where do we go if we disagree? Do we have to fight? Does it have to be a fight? Does it
I
have
think
to
we
be
just got the connection.
this is so
I
bad.
think the connection just came back.
This is so bad.
Really? I totally have you right now.
All I wanted to discuss was when we disagree.
Lost you.
Jeez, this is so bad. When we all I wanted
Never
to
mind,
discuss.
it's gone again.
All right, I'm gonna call it.
Well, we can talk about that at some point. There'll be other days. It's fine.
Okay, we'll talk later.